Houston, we have a problem.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Help me help you.
You are a toy!
My team is dead!
There's no crying in baseball!
Relax. This pot is making you aggressive.
Wilson!
You complete me.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of We Bought a Mic, a podcast about movies, television, music, and more. On today's show, we're back with our series on the films of Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise. It's called Tom v. Tom, A Tale of Two Toms, Cruisemas with the Hanks. Welcome back. We're here. My name's Ernest.
And you know what they say, it's always sunny in Philadelphia unless you have AIDS. My name is Hunter.
Jesus Christ. That's
I have a lot of family members who've been affected.
so fun.
Listen, I love Rent, so I'm an ally.
That's true. And I'm Drew. Excited to talk about a classic Philly movie.
Yeah.
You know, Rocky. Creed.
Philadelphia.
The Mark Wahlberg.
Stronger. No, that's Boston. and also not Mark Wahlberg.
Miracle. You're thinking of Miracle?
Invincible.
Invincible.
There we
Miracle
go.
is the hockey movie, my bad.
What would you... I guess we'll get to it, but we got to rename this movie. It's not too late.
So I was going to
rename
ask you guys
Philadelphia.
about, like, where is this on the Mount Rushmore of movies named after a place?
Before we talk Philadelphia, wanted to do a little catch-up corner here. Got 2 TV shows I wanted to run by you guys, and a movie. A new movie that Hunter and I got a chance to see early. It's coming out very soon. It's called Dune Part 2. Heard of it? Have we heard of this movie?
Is that the Skywalker movie, or is that?
It's my most anticipated movie of the last 2 years. It's finally here.
Woof.
Got a chance to see it early.
We also, before diving into that, anyone watching this will already know this, but we have finally expanded the table, and we now have a fourth permanent.
Oh, we have Tom here.
We have a fourth permanent member of the podcast.
Oh my God, Hunter's grabbing Tom.
As you can see, he's life size. He is 6'4", just like the real.
Wait,
Tom
let me
Cruise.
hold him. Let me hold him, and then you stand next to him.
That's
not the size.
That's
of
not
Tom.
fair. You fold him if you fold him so he's on his knees, it'll be closer to his actual height.
That's not even
It's
close.
like there.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is where he probably should be.
Yeah, gotta just
For listeners at home, I'm like 5'6", 5'7", so this is more accurate to.
Yeah. His island's probably like at your nose.
He's holding a cutout of not Tom Cruise. Maybe Jerry Maguire is tall. You know what I mean?
that explains it.
Because this is
Jerry is 6
This
feet
is a
tall.
really old cardboard cutout of Jerry Maguire. I had my eye on this on Facebook Marketplace for a long time. It was located in Lakeland, Florida. The only person I knew in Lakeland was my girlfriend's little sister. And this was located at like a really scary looking guy's house in Lakeland. So I did not want to make her go do that. But my girlfriend did make her go do that. And so
Bag acquired.
yeah, so shout out to Elizabeth and your whole sorority for housing him for the last like month.
That's amazing.
He's been like
That's
in
so
like their
cool.
lobby or whatever with I don't know how sororities. Their lobby.
It's a foyer.
Lobby. I've seen The Social Network. I know that you can only go past the foyer. If
Yeah.
you remember.
And apparently when she came to pick him up, one of them was like, "Oh, thank God, fucking get this guy out of here."
They were tired of just getting bringing their dates over, them being like, "Sorry, I gotta
I'm
take this guy to bed
I'm
instead."
glad that he's like pristine and not like with a bra hanging off of him.
He
and,
actually
like, lipstick all over.
She said that when she went to pick him up, he literally had a bra on.
That's cool, right there.
It's a sorority. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, I mean, and you can smell it now. You can smell it on him. No.
So
That said, I mean, I was like, how often do you get the chance to get a Jerry Maguire cardboard cutout? Like, that's crazy.
well, now I'm worried that now we're on a path to acquire a lot of cardboard
Hey.
cutouts.
oh, and
I
hey,
think that's
if
a
you
cool thing to have.
if you turn him sideways, he also doubles as a Tom Hanks in Philadelphia.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
He's so damn skinny.
This is a great start to a pod.
You guys
welcome,
want to talk about Dune or something?
welcome, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Cardboard Cruz, to the show. I hope that we get a lot of use out of this guy. I'm already thinking of a lot of activities.
I know. I'm
a lot of
absolutely loving him.
bits.
I had the first couple of days, I had him like sitting on my couch, like in my room, and I would wake up to take a piss at like 3 a.m. and like actually like yell. Like I'd be like, ah! He looks so real. So I had to
You just
move him
walk out
here.
there and you just hear it and you're like, I do love black people.
I love black people. I'm so fucking excited to. The reason I wanted it so bad is because Jerry Maguire has become like one of my favorite movies over the last year or two, and I don't know why, but it's incredible. That's why.
Maybe we should take him out into the world and do like bits for TikTok
We'll take
where we just like put him places.
Jerry Maguire in the real world.
Gen Alpha loves Jerry Maguire.
So, somebody will just be like walking their groceries to their car, and then like out of a bush just pops out Jerry Maguire. Okay, so Dune 2.
Dune Part 2.
Dune
Part 2.
The new film by Denis Villeneuve. I think that we're probably gonna have maybe a whole dedicated episode to this once it actually comes out and Drew gets a chance to see it. So we'll keep our thoughts brief and spoiler free. I mean, look, guys, like, am I really the right person to review this movie? Was there what were the betting odds that I was not gonna like
It's like, no,
this movie?
Here's the thing. It's one of those things where sometimes like you see somebody and there's such a heavy favorite, there isn't even a line on the
it's just
no.
NA.
Yeah, it's just like you can only bet on like an upset. You can bet on like 200 to 1 that something else other than this will be your favorite movie of the year, but there is no bet that this would flop.
Exactly. So, you know, I'm not the most kind of don't take my opinion as like the bellwether of whether or not you should see this movie or whether or not it's good, because I was already in the bag from day zero. Like I love the first Dune. I read the book. I'm fully spice pilled like all the way. There was absolutely no chance that I wasn't going to love this. So for me to come on here and say that it's an absolute home run and one of the best achievements in sci-fi filmmaking of all time, like, you know, that's just my opinion. Right?
Okay. So, all right, fine. So Ernest, so I'll say it. So this is one of the best sci-fi movies I've ever seen in my stupid little life. I don't want to say that I wasn't I will say I wasn't as excited as you, Ernest. I want to say that I wasn't hyped for this movie. This was probably like,
I mean, the hype is
things
much
told-
bigger for this than for the first one.
yeah. Well, I mean, the first one was released. It was a day and date release straight to HBO Max, the artist formerly known as HBO Max. It was released still during the COVID and the variants and everything else, that there was a whole concern around that, and the movie still made 400 mil in the box office. I think that since it has come out, there has been an anticipation growing. It's going to be really interesting to see what the box office of this movie is, because it is still like so deep, intense sci-fi. And I'll be honest, like, I really like sci-fi, but I wouldn't say that I consider myself like the biggest sci-fi junkie of all of us. I think that you have that title. You have that belt here.
Absolutely.
But what I will say is, leading up to this movie, I did a watch through of all of Denis' films released, Incendies and beyond. So I haven't had a chance to see his first 3 movies they made whenever he was still a small French-Canadian director. But watching through that, capped off by Dune Part 2, I think that there is a very serious conversation that we're gonna have to start having about, like,
is he one of the goats?
Yeah, well, is he one of the goats of the 21st century?
Yeah.
Like, whenever we can look at him with his peers, because he's younger than the Finchers and the Linklaters and a lot of that 90s generation. He's even a little bit younger than somebody like Nolan. So it's closer to like the Iñárritu, Guillermo del Toro, like those Cuarón kind of guys. And I think that even outside of looking at him as peers, the 8-film run that he has had between Incendies, Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, Dune Part 1, now Dune Part 2
Insane.
is like, it's like Spielbergian. Like, it truly, it's Scorsese. It's like one of those things where it's like, you put that
Cannot
on
miss.
the like top upper echelon. And watching through that, I got so excited. Dune Part 1, I looked back at some of my thoughts of that, and I think that I was a little bit hypercritical of Dune Part 1 because just in general, I have a little bit of a apprehension to any kind of a Part 1, Part 2 thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, guys, just make your movie 4.5 hours. I'll see it.
Right.
But I know I'm in the minority there. The thing about this is that it fucking rips. It delivers on everything that I think was a little bit lacking in Dune Part 1. There's a couple, if we're gonna pick nits, which I'm sure that we will.
It's not a perfect movie. It's perfect to me, but there are things definitely that people aren't gonna vibe with.
Well, there are some like storytelling things where Denis is just very clearly like, this movie's got to make at least $500 million.
It can't be 3.5
It cannot be 3+ hours, and that's smart. Like there's a moment in the movie that I called out wherever we left, where it's just like, a lot of things happen really quickly in like 10 minutes, but then it moves on and you're like back in on everything. And
they like
that's
truncated a whole little mini act of the movie.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Like I'll take that because visually this movie does things I've never seen before.
It's so arresting. Like the sensory experience of watching this in a theater. Like please try to go to IMAX or Dolby or any kind of like, you know, big boy, large screen. If you can't go to that, try to sit as close to the screen as you possibly can. So it just kind of takes over your entire field of vision, because this is just an absolutely mind-blowing sensory experience. It is absolutely incredible. This sets the bar for what you should be able to achieve with visual effects and with like high budget blockbuster movie making. Yeah. Like if
we're giving these filmmakers over $150 million, they better all look this fucking good.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I understand that like making stuff is hard, and you know, there's a million reasons why a movie might come out in theaters, you know, less than what the artist hoped it would be. And people don't go out trying to make a bad movie. Everyone wants to make a good movie. But when you see shit just being churned out, all this content that gets churned out just to appease the fucking stakeholders, it dilutes like what we love about the medium, what makes cinema. And this movie is absolute cinema.
Yeah.
It is just and not just the visuals, like the storytelling. And I knew a lot of what was going to happen because I read the book, but just seeing it realized on the big screen, these themes of faith and power and control, and the allegories of colonialism and imperialism and the white savior complex. Like this is a deeply rich and layered thematic story. And I was blown away, completely blown away. The performances. Yeah. Timmy, motherfucker, brought it. Fucking brought it, dude. I think this is his best performance. Absolutely. I don't think
you're to see Wonka yet. So.
I need to see it again. I'm seeing it again this weekend. I think this is his best performance. Zendaya is phenomenal in this movie. I think this is her best performance too. And she's really great in Euphoria. I know. And we haven't seen Challengers yet, so we'll see. But everyone fucking cooked. Everybody cooked in this movie. Straight heat. Yeah. Absolute fire. The spice is fucking strong.
Yeah.
It took my breath away.
It bangs. I think that there is like, I echo everything that you said. The performances are incredible. Austin Butler is unbelievable in this movie. Like he is disgusting in like all the best ways. And it's a thing where like you see, it's like, oh, Austin Butler can do this. I thought that he was just kind of a pretty boy. I didn't know for sure that he had this level in him, but no, he's got
Bardem.
Rebecca Ferguson really gets to cook in this movie in a way that she kind of doesn't in the first one. Like you really get to see like, oh no, this is like one of the great actresses that we have. I think that one of the biggest takeaways that we as a society are going to have coming out of Dune Part 1, Dune Part 2, and Dune, whatever it's called. If it's called Dune Messiah based on the book, but whatever the next story is coming, there absolutely is going to be another Dune movie that's coming after this. And I think that whenever this is all wrapped up and we're looking back on it, I think one of the biggest wins that Denis is going to have is that he found a way to make this story that is Brother, I've tried to read this book a couple of times, and it is as dense as sci-fi writing
It's tough.
possibly gets.
Yeah.
I could not find an entry point into that. Denis has found a way to penetrate that, to make it appeal and make sense to the masses without nullifying it and neutering it too much, so that it oscillates or it isolates the fans.
Yeah, and the clarity, in which he does it, like you never ever think these are actors on a set. You believe you are there.
It's very immersive.
You are in this world.
And that's a hallmark of everything in Denis' career that he's done. He's
it's unreal, man.
He's one of the greats.
I
man.
love it so much. I mean, I felt so good going into it because not only was I so excited, but I just knew it was going to be a banger. And you don't have those, it's very rare to have those where you feel this peak anticipation and not for a second did I think that there was a chance that it wasn't going to rip. And that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so happy. Finally, we're here. Dune 2 is here. It's a week away. By the time you're hearing this, people will start to have seen it within the next coming weeks. I could not recommend it enough. Also, you get to hear Christopher Walken say Muad'Dib.
Muad'Dib.
So
and that's cool. That's really cool.
So those are our early thoughts on Dune Part 2. We will have more extended thoughts to get into all the nitty-gritty of the story, everything that happens in it, with a separate spoiler-filled episode in a couple weeks once it actually comes out. A couple extra catch-up items I wanted to run by you guys. A couple TV shows. I got a chance to watch through True Detective Season 4, Night Country, on HBO Max, the one to watch for HBO. 6 episodes was the full season, and it's over now. I think that this show is very flawed. I don't think it did everything it needed to, or it set out to do successfully, but I really liked it and I enjoyed watching it. And it's getting kind of torn apart by a lot of the online conversation around it. A lot of kind of really out there, borderline kind of racist and misogynistic takes happening around this show. A lot of them fueled by Nick Pizzolatto, the creator of the original True Detective,
which is really shitty.
Not a great situation, because this is co-starring 2 female actors. You got Jodie Foster and Callie Reese.
Hey, former We Bought a Mic guest, Callie Reese.
See it.
Our girl out there.
And they're both absolutely phenomenal in their parts. And then Issa Lopez is the creator. She writes and directs every episode. And you can definitely tell that Issa had a Night Country pitch that then HBO decided to fold into True Detective. You can feel that. And I think a lot of the writing suffers from her trying really hard to try to make it a True Detective thing when it doesn't really need to be, when you can just make it a separate detective murder mystery type thing. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I don't think it's a bad show. I just think it's flawed. I think it didn't deliver on a lot of things it wanted to, but I thought that there was a lot there to love. And I think that this is one of those shows that maybe it should have been a binge. I don't always say that, but when it comes to a mystery type thing where you're just kind of waiting for that reveal to come, for it to be spread over 6 weeks and have every episode separated by a week's worth of discussion and speculation
theorizing
and back and forth, it didn't help this story. I think it really hurt it. I think if this would have been dropped in a binge and people would have been able to watch it over a weekend, you wouldn't have this kind of fractured, shattered take on the show, because I think the show is good. I just think that people got wrapped up in the True Detective of it all.
I think also It's funny to be wrapped up in the True Detective of it all because there's one season that's
Yeah,
worth a shit.
Are we
Yeah.
sure that like season
Hey,
2
the-
and season 3 were really
The
like, worth
Mahershala,
that
the
much?
Mahershala was really good.
I know, but those weren't in the discourse.
Right,
Like, no one
yeah.
gave a fuck when those came out. People gave a fuck when 2 came out and immediately were like, "Oh, this sucks."
Yeah.
And then 3 just didn't really.
3 was good,
It
but
just
then
didn't
it
make
just
waves.
didn't,
No one
yeah,
saw it.
dissolve.
This one did. It was a big deal that it was back. It was a big deal that Jodie Foster is.
Dude, she's
is
so
back.
good in this. She plays, it's a very acidic performance, just a very unlikable character, which I'd love to see her do. I haven't seen Naiad. I don't know how good she is in it. She is nominated for an Oscar.
You
but
haven't?
You haven't seen
Oh,
Naiad? Oh,
Naiad is
oh,
here.
the Naiad flag right there.
That's Annette Bening, I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
Well.
But I want more from her. I don't know where she's been. I think she's just been like quasi-retired and like directing stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's vibing.
she's been doing
Um,
some direction.
She's incredible. She's
Yeah.
so
She's
good.
cooking. Another thought I kept having just reading the discourse about this season is like the reason season 1 is great is not something that's replicable because like season 1 has a lot of writing issues as well. It's not like some perfectly written
Yeah.
season of TV. It just has like one of the best 1-2 dynamics of all time.
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
like of any show. And it's established so it's in one season and like nothing could ever top what McConaughey
Yeah.
and you know what I mean? Like it's just such an instantly iconic duo.
Yeah.
It's
And-
also like something like it's such lightning in a bottle because it works on something like True Detective that's a mini series format because it never overstays its welcome.
Mhm.
It's there, you have the 8 episodes of it, and then that's kind of it living isolated there like in crystal
yeah,
forever.
you know that for that season you're getting just that story. But to your point about Woody and McConaughey, I think a lot of what people loved about that show was just them vibing with each other.
I was
It's
going to
just the
say, is there any
conversations.
sense of humor in season 4?
Well,
because season 1 has a sense of humor.
Here's my thing. I just really feel like this would have been better if it just wasn't True Detective. If it was just called Night Country, I think a lot of the issues would have been alleviated because you're not really getting a lot of that dynamic in the dynamic with the two main characters here. Because what this season is doing is it's kind of expanding the scope of the story to the whole town. It's this town called Ennis, Alaska, very small town where everybody's just in each other's business. And 6 episodes is not enough time to do that, to not just focus on your main 2 detectives, but to open it up to all these other characters. And you're just not doing any of these subplots any service by doing that. So you're not really getting kind of like, you know, the stuff where it's just the 2 detectives driving around, getting into some weird ass
talking
conversations.
about, yeah.
It's still very much very plotty, and the plot itself is good. It's a mystery about, the central crime, so to speak, is these scientists at this research station who are supposedly murdered. They're found, I think, in the end of the first episode, all frozen together in a corpsicle. A big
Yeah.
block of frozen bodies. So that's just a great way to introduce this mystery. But then it introduces some other mysteries that may or may not be related to the scientists. And I think it keeps on adding stuff. It adds like some kind of issues of mental health in some of the characters. It introduces elements that may or may not be supernatural, kind of like ghostly spiritual stuff. It has like an environmental angle of a mining company polluting the water of this community and how that may or may not be tied to some of the supernatural stuff. There's the whole angle of Native Americans, Callie Reese being a Native American actor.
And just indigenous people and their
Indigenous
relationship
people
to-
and Alaskan natives, which is a whole thing, who a lot of their communities are defined by kind of white American colonists coming in to mine for oil in Alaska. Like that's a big thing. So it's just too much dip on the chip is
Yeah.
what it is. It's
Yeah.
just too much. And there's not enough time to get to it all. I did think the last episode was good. I don't think it did a good job of kind of giving you a satisfying conclusion to all these things. But what it does give you, I thought was good. I didn't think that it was this catastrophe that people are making it out to be. It's very flawed. There's a lot of issues, but I liked it.
Yeah.
I think it's worth watching now that all the episodes are out and you can just kind of binge through it.
I definitely want to. It's funny that you brought that you thought this worked better in a binge model, because I think I watched the first 3 or 4 episodes and then I kind of like reached a point where I was like, I'm enjoying this. I'm going to wait for it all to come out and then I can just finish it all up in one go. And maybe that also says something about me and my own watching habits, but it's funny that you also like kind of pinpointed the same thing, that maybe it does work better.
I think it does.
Just giving it all in one go. I'm going to finish up this season because I am liking it. I do really like their dynamic together, Foster and Callie Reese.
Yeah.
I think that they're great. I think Callie
Toe to
Reese
toe.
is like, she's legit. Like she is a actor.
Yeah.
She is going to do
a
things.
lot of people watch this show too, so
And I think
I think
that's,
big things
I think
to
it's
come.
going to be huge for her. Since the only other
it's
thing.
a classic trajectory of like pod,
yeah.
huge prestige TV
Well, bam
Hey,
show.
guest.
Hey,
Yeah, do
budding
great.
actors out there, all you gotta do is just
come on the show.
star in a little
interview.
indie film, come in here, and then you're gonna be on an HBO show.
We'll wine and dine you.
yeah.
A show that did drop a binge that I thought maybe could have served as a weekly, Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Prime Video. This one is 8 episodes. It's Donald Glover and Maya Erskine. Essentially, Donald Glover's follow-up to Atlanta. Guys, this show's fucking awesome. I really, really loved it. It does 2 things pretty close to perfect. It's a sleek, like high-end spy show that they filmed in the world. Isn't that crazy? Like you go outside with a camera to like Italy and film? Like that's
it was
should
in
be-
Atlanta,
we should be doing
in the backlot, or
yeah, it's crazy. And it's also a really entertaining like romance. Like a funny romantic story. Kind of like a rom-com, but you still get a lot of action in there. It's still very much a violent show, spy kind of action show. So you get these 2 parallel tracks, and I think it weaves them together so well. The spy stuff I thought was kind of less interesting than the romance. I think Glover and Erskine do a really great job of depicting a relationship and kind of the ups and downs of a relationship. This is such kind of a genius inversion of the movie with Brangelina, where that movie's about a couple that is, larger than life, so beautiful and sexy, and it's ridiculous that they're trying to pretend like they're not secret agents and trying to live this normal life. And in this, it's like, oh, Donald Glover and Maya Erskine are just these 2 regular
Racist
that you can't believe are actually these badass secret agents. That's kind of the concept just kind of inverted on itself. So what that allows us to do in the show is we get to spend so much time with them just being together as a couple. That's where a lot of the magic happens.
Hell yeah, brother.
And like, and not are they going to get out of the shootout?
right.
Or who are they going to kill?
That's not as interesting.
It's, are they going to fart in front of each other? And what's that conversation going to be like when you get to the point in your relationship when you're okay ripping one in front of the other person? That's like the magic of this show. It's so good. I did not expect it to be that.
I
as
would
good
say
as it is.
you sound more positive than like most things that I have read online. Most people are like, yeah, it was pretty good. And like, that's kind of like almost
That's what I'm
just
saying,
like,
because it was a binge. So it's like the
Yeah.
conversation doesn't
it's
build.
also a Prime show, and
Yeah.
Amazon Prime is like, I don't really know what Prime Video is,
Yeah.
right? I don't think that Amazon knows what Prime Video is. They're like, we have football now, and also The Boys, and
Air.
we make some movies too sometimes. It's
Saltburn's on there.
it has no idea what it is. I need to watch the show. I have season tickets to Donald Glover. To anything that he has involvement in, I'm just going to watch until he proves me otherwise. And Maya Erskine, I feel the same way about.
They're both
Post
great.
Pen 15. I'm just anything that you do, I'm going to be in. I'm excited looking at the other cast for this.
Every-
Michaela Cole, John
Yep.
Turturro.
Every episode has a major guest star. That's
rocks.
another fun thing. It is very episodic, which is again another reason why it would have been great as a weekly, because it's just like, what's the adventure this time? Where are we going? What's the mission? You know, and there is a through line, but you're not really. Every episode feels self-contained. Like, oh, that's the Italy one. Oh, that's the skiing one. That's the jungle one.
Do you at any points, and maybe this is an odd question to ask because I love Maya Erskine. I know we are all pro Maya Erskine on this pod. Can you ever feel at any point in this show like you're like, oh, this feels like this might have been originally like a Phoebe Waller-Bridge I could see in this role, maybe even more so than Maya?
I could have definitely seen the Phoebe vision, but Maya tackles this character so different than Phoebe. I think Phoebe's energy is somehow like much more similar to Donald Glover, where they kind of would have been much more similar characters, which would have been cool. But putting Donald with Maya, they're very different. Where the character that Maya's playing here is kind of like a sociopath. Like she's kind of devoid of all emotion. And I'm not sure if Phoebe's a little bit more like winking.
Yeah, I was going to say
fun.
both of them kind of have that
Yeah.
winking quality to them.
So it would have been interesting, I'm sure, but I know it wasn't the first choice, but I think it adds a really interesting kind of flip to the original intention of the character. So I really recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun. Again, only 8 episodes. You can just watch it as like this breezy, poppy thing, just this action caper thing, or you can pay attention and dig a little deeper to what they're trying to say about relationships in the modern era. So that's Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's Ketchup. Let's get to our main review. Philadelphia. A film.
Flipadelphia.
Are you going to do it? You're going to flip? Oh, he's going to flip. He's going to flip.
This table is not
flippy?
conducive to-
Oh!
I just got juice all over your tablecloth. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It was worth it for the bit.
Okay.
All right. So we're back with our Tom v. Tom series.
We're now finally 1/10 of the way done with the series.
So we haven't all three of us done one of these in a minute because you weren't here for The Firm, Drew, and Hunter, you weren't here for A League of Their Own. So the last time
Sexist.
we were all together,
No, I just don't like baseball. I don't think baseball is real.
Actually, me neither.
Have you ever watched a baseball game?
Worst
you
part
know
of,
that it real?
worst part of the movie, they're playing this absolute it's like Calvin ball. It's just
I'm like,
made
oh,
up fucking sport.
What?
the last time we were all together was for A Few Good Men.
Wow.
A Tom Cruise film.
That was when, like 2021?
Yeah.
Okay.
many ages ago. And now here we are with Philadelphia 1993. This is the movie that gets Tom Hanks his first Academy Award. Woo! Yeah. He did it. And he wins back to back. This followed by Forrest Gump, which we will cover. Tom Cruise, still no gold man.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
No, he hasn't? Not
Nope.
even for... Oh,
So
okay.
there are 2 Oscar-winning performances in this series, both by Mr. Hanks.
Yeah.
0 by Mr.
If Cruz was going to get
Um,
one, it would have been Born on the 4th of July.
right.
That's the Oscar.
That's-
So-
movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to ask the question now of if we were going to... I know that they weren't racing against each other, but if you were going to give an Oscar to anybody in this movie, is it Tom Hanks or is it Denzel?
I think you got to give it to Hanks because the movie kind of revolves around him. But I do think Denzel's amazing in it.
I mean, yeah, Denzel is like the best like actor ever.
I think that if you're going to give an Oscar to anybody in this movie, I think like The Academy, because they always love the showiest performance, is going to give it to Tom Hanks. But I think Denzel is like the best acting part of this.
It's
movie.
also,
and that's not a detriment to Tom Hanks. I just think Denzel is that much of a force of nature.
Yeah.
Anytime he's on screen,
it's not even a showy performance. It's just an Oscar character. But yeah, I mean, really, the movie doesn't work without both of them doing what they're doing. This is two, mega
Titans.
movie stars. Denzel isn't at his peak yet. He's still relatively early on, and even though he already has an Oscar, he's still relatively early on in his rise. But he is on absolute. I mean, he's never ever not on fire in a movie.
Man on fire.
Man on fire.
And he's similar to Hanks in a lot of ways. Where like, and kind of Cruise, but like they work together well in this movie because they're both guys that do their best work when they're playing a variation on like a very similar character, and they're both kind of doing that in this movie. You know what I mean? Like they're Denzel. It's very different flavors for both of them, and this is also early enough on in Hanks's reign that like he hasn't done much drama at all.
That's kind of where I wanted to start. Is like we are covering these movies chronologically. Like I said, we did League of Their Own. Even the ones we didn't cover, like Turner and Hooch or The Burbs. We're about to cover.
He's a certain type of actor. He's
Yeah.
like you want him in there because he's like gonna make you laugh, and he's somebody who your mom really likes.
He was a funny guy. He was a comedian. He came out of what was that show called? We mentioned it when we started this.
Bosom Buddies.
Bosom Buddies, right? Yeah. So you get the guy from Bosom Buddies in here, and this is when like, oh shit, this guy is fucking for real. A lot of people talk about how when he was gonna get the Oscar, how the speech he gave at the Oscars sounded like he was running for president of Hollywood or some shit. He was like,
Have you guys ever listened to the speech? The acceptance.
I meant to, but
it's a great acceptance speech.
Yeah, that like he has arrived moment. He was so aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the performance is not the kind of performance that today in the 21st century you might call Oscar baity. And I think that bleeds into a lot of this movie. Is we got to talk about Jonathan Demme.
That's
because this movie, under the direction of anybody else, would be Oscar bait.
That's where I wanted to go with this movie. So this is Jonathan Demme. This is his follow-up to Silence of the Lambs.
Incredible.
He wins the Big Five, only the third movie in film history to win Best Director, Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Screenplay. The only other movies were One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Up in One Night. So he is at the absolute pinnacle of Hollywood. And it's like, what are you going to do next? And he admits that he felt a little bit guilty about Buffalo Bill and kind of like his portrayal of like of a gay man, and just it happened to be that wasn't like
or queer,
his intention.
trans, anything
like
that,
whatever, anything like that. Like that wasn't his intention. Making it obviously that is an adapted story, but he pointedly wanted to make something to be like almost not like an apology, but as something as like a statement kind of coming out of it. That isn't his sole reason, but he looks at this movie, he sees Tom Hanks, this ascending star, Denzel, already an Oscar winner, and is just like, yes, I want to
Glory.
make this.
Glory was before this.
Yeah, Glory's 89, I want to say 88, 89.
Let's see if I can.
It's a couple years before this, but at this point, I think that really the whole time I was watching, I was just thinking like, in a mediocre filmmaker's hands, this movie is like bad Oscar bait. In like a replacement level filmmaker's hands, this movie is like a fucking Hallmark movie. Like I think this is one of those things that in the wrong hands, this movie could be like atrocious. This could be completely tone deaf. It could not work at all. And instead, like, this movie is just, it has a rewatchability to it that like, this is a big cable movie, which I don't think on its surface, whenever they came out with this, they're like, we're going to make a movie, especially in 1993, when the AIDS epidemic was just really starting to bubble to the mainstream. I don't think that
it'd been around for so long at this point,
but not in Hollywood.
Right.
Like this is the first major like movie. I think that there had probably been like some like like it was more of a thing in New York with like theatrical productions and stuff like that. But this is the first like big Hollywood movie that is really going to like deal with the subject
It is,
of age.
yeah, it's worth saying, if we, whenever we get into like things that haven't aged great about this movie, this was like really transgressive when it came out. Like this was a very like bold, seen as a super bold choice to sympathetically paint, which is crazy to think now, but sympathetically paint like victims of AIDS
or just a gay person.
Yeah.
Like not even a sick.
Yeah, and
gay
it's
man,
not, and again, like now by today's standards, like you would argue, oh, he's not even, he's hardly even like sexualized at all. But like to just show that he has a partner and hangs out with other gay people is like more than you would get anywhere else.
But before this point in Hollywood, it's like you see a gay guy, he like has to be a certain type of gay man. He has to be like the overly flamboyant type and everything else. And what this movie is trying to show is that just like, no, you can just have a life partner and they can just exist in your life. And it's not like he's in the closet. It's not like his family like hates him for being gay or anything else like that. They're like actively just like, no, we love you, Andy. We're here to love and support
that
you. Like
worked so well for me.
It feels so real and so genuine in a way that just
Demme comes at this with such a soft touch. Like there's a tenderness to this movie that works really well, where I think again any other director would be pushy. It would be like really trying to make you be like, hey, look at me. I'm really trying to make you feel bad for this guy. That's not what this is. Like, yes, you do feel for him, but you don't feel like the movie is like manipulating you into feeling bad for him. There is this very, again, soft touch, this tenderness to it. And it works so well for me. I think so much of that has aged incredibly well. And I think that, even back then, you could say that like the movie doesn't do enough to it doesn't go far enough to humanize the gay community and the AIDS epidemic, and that you could have gone farther.
Well,
but I think that just the fact that it's like these movie stars doing it, and we'll talk about it, like the entire Denzel character of like just creating this guy who's like incredibly, bigoted and doubtful.
Well, and it's also it's a really huge gulf between doing something like that in the early 90s, where you have a character who represents the audience in his ignorance, and then making something like Green Book in 2017 with a guy who's like, oh, the black people are stupid.
The worst thing about Green Book is that movie is not only a movie made well into the 21st century that is so toothless about this, but that it doesn't even, the entire point of that movie is to be like, hey, racist people are people too. And we should be able to accept them. And, it's okay that they're racist, because they're
still people.
Yeah. Racist people and black people, they can be friends.
Yeah.
That's okay.
This entire, like, it's, I ended up seeing, because like a few years ago when I was in school, I took that like course that went through like gay cinema. And there was, multiple things that dealt with AIDS in general, but there was a documentary about it. Cannot be understated how insanely shitty people were toward people with like there's one quick shot in this movie of someone holding up a protest sign that says AIDS cures homosexuality. That was like a common thing that people said.
Well, it was like God coming.
I mean, so this movie came out in 1993. I don't know, what are the events based on? What is the year that it's
it's loosely based on a true court case, which as I always say, that's the way to base something is loosely, because then you're allowed to make up a movie that's better than real life.
I don't remember what the year was of that, but I think it's really important 80s. It's really important to contextualize where this movie was, not just for like, especially whenever we talk about like some of the Denzel stuff where you're like, ooh, throwing a lot of F slurs out there and stuff like that. But at the time it is, at the time it is so progressive. And we have to think about like in 1991, Magic Johnson, who at this point is the best player in the NBA, comes out and says he has HIV and has to immediately retire. And that shook the sports world unlike anything that we can like possibly understand now.
Yeah.
Like the closest thing that we have had in our modern life is when Andrew Luck suddenly retired. And that's just because he had like brain damage from getting hit too many times. Like it is not the same thing as what was going on. That
Guy
was
from
in the
Indianapolis being like, I think that was bigger. I think the Andrew Luck thing was a way bigger deal. When he just decided, he was like, "Yeah, I'm just like really hurt
I just
all
like
the time.
don't want to get hit anymore.
My joints ache."
My brain aches every morning. No, like
Yeah, it's a huge thing, and also even though this is beyond like the genesis and like the true like peak of like the deadliness of AIDS in the early 90s, AIDS was still killing so many people. Like it was far from cured. It was just like a known entity at that point. So like less people were contracting. It was still the Demme cast like 1 million people who actually had AIDS in this movie, and most of them died. Like by the time the movie came out, most of them were dead. Like the biggest like actual speaking part is the one guy at the law firm who sort of sides with Tom Hanks.
whoa, what?
That guy had AIDS and he died in 94.
Oh my God.
That guy is great.
I know, and he's really good in this. And then
Bob,
like
or whatever his name is.
and then obviously anytime you see a side character that's like, in a
Sick.
clinic or something, like that's just a real person with AIDS, and most of them were dead the next year. Like it's so nuts. It was still that level of killing everyone. So like it's something that I think younger people don't have a ton of exposure to beyond just generally knowing, oh yeah, it was like a big bad thing. But
yeah, our generation doesn't know.
it
but,
was
like,
absolutely
yeah.
nuts. The way that it ravaged this community, like, and and then the blind eye that society turned on them, particularly in the 80s when Reagan was president.
Right.
That was a big,
Yeah, exactly. So
hullabaloo.
by the 90s, it was like, oh, we just went a whole decade of just allowing this
just
to ravage.
everyone died.
Yeah.
Like it's nuts how like just the death rate of people who contracted it was absolutely insane, and the lack of tolerance and lack of understanding years and years and years and years later. It's not like COVID where we like within a year or two we had figured out, okay,
Vaccines.
it's airborne, it's not on surfaces, yada yada yada. Like it took a decade because in part the government was not putting a ton of funding into researching it.
Yeah.
And so,
what happens in this movie would happen all the time, where it's just like fire them, get them away.
yeah, get him the
Don't
fuck out
talk
of here.
about it,
And
move
also,
I don't understand it, so just get it away.
well, yeah, and then also obviously at his firm, that's amplified by the fact that they're like, wait a minute, you're gay? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not. I mean, that's a whole thing that we can talk about when, like, Andy doesn't get fired because he has AIDS. Andy gets fired because he's gay.
Yeah, right.
And that's like what it is it's this deep homophobia that is just,
Yeah.
it was so ingrained in the culture, and a thing that was just like, it was almost like a known quantity. And that's why when we're talking about one of the best scenes in the movie, I think about the law library scene, because that's like whenever Denzel decides like he actually wants to take Andy's case. And it's because there's a guy who's like mean mugging Denzel and like looking at him like, what's a black man doing in the law library, that he's just like, oh wait, we're both like an oppressed person in this state, like right now.
Well, and that's also, everyone loves to talk about Demme's, eye line, like POV shots. And it's because
the
like
close-ups.
and in moments like that, they work just so good because
Right into the camera lens.
yeah. And the thing about those shots and like using them in a movie, like, you almost have the inclination to be like, well, they work so effectively for him. Why doesn't everyone do that? Because like eye contact, like in a movie, like to a camera means the exact same thing that it means like in real life. It means like trust.
Mhm.
But in the movie, it means that the director really trusts the actor and the material, because if not, that is off-putting.
Absolutely.
If you have a shitty, scene or a shitty actor, that doesn't work.
That's why it's like it's Demme and then maybe like Rob Reiner is just like the best directors of movie stars ever. Like I think that Demme is kind of just like head and shoulders above everybody, and just the performances that he gets out of A-list actors, because he knows perfectly of like, you got the goods. I'm going to just like lay the stage for you to do what you do best.
Yeah, it's not just trust in the audience, it's trust in his stars that they can do it.
Yeah. And so and then even because everyone likes to talk about the eye contact with the camera. He also in equal measure uses the opposite of that, which is like showing from the POV what they're looking at, and that works insanely. My favorite use of it, maybe in any Demme movie ever, is outside of maybe like the night vision and
oh god,
because that's really good in Silence of the Lambs. But in this one, when Hanks comes into Denzel's office and it goes POV Denzel watching like his hat, once he's like, I have
when he's touching everything.
Denzel's watching everything he touches, and his
so
hat
good.
and just like,
and then realizing as soon as like he finds out like I have AIDS and you see Denzel recoil and then just be like, want to like clean everything down. I have to call my doctor. Do I have AIDS now? And like all this kind of stuff.
One of the things I wrote down is I literally wrote down this movie brings you in close. And I wrote down the note about the trust too. Like it does trust you to follow along because right from the beginning of this movie, it doesn't over explain itself. Like you never get a scene where it's like, Andy was a happy guy until one day he got AIDS.
He went to a gay theater.
Him like smashing some dude in a porno theater.
Like the movie,
and then he finishes, and then he like sneezes immediately,
like coughs blood into a napkin.
Oh shit! Not your average Tuesday.
The movie, like he's already sick at the beginning of the movie, and there's these very precise beats that let you know everything you need to know without it being explicit. Like the conversation with the mom, the just going to the doctor and having a blood test.
So that's ultimately, I was sort of wondering, especially like while watching the beginning of this, I was like, why? Obviously this is like a revered and like well-remembered movie. Why isn't it remembered as like an all-time great? And I think the answer is because the rest of the movie isn't like the beginning. I think the beginning is a 10 because it starts so thoughtfully. Like we're not spoon-fed everything. The way that we are displayed information, it assume it lets us assume intelligence. It's not like jumping super into any genre. We get like weird little choices like in a screenwriting way where like, he's like, we're obviously smart enough to handle this, but like the idea of, he comes into the office and he's like, oh, I got fired a week ago, even though like we just did a 1 week time jump. And so we're like, why didn't we see that then? Because then it cuts back to him getting fired.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. And it's so brilliantly done. And everything in his personal life is so well done. Denzel and Tom, both of their personal lives that are displayed on screen are crazy good. Yeah. And them acting together is crazy fucking good. I think
they're so good.
The issue that I would take with this movie has nothing to do with like, it being dated or intolerant in a way. It's that it really is so eager to jump into being a courtroom drama. Yeah. And it's like, man, we're really cooking with this other shit. Like, and then once it becomes a courtroom drama, they don't really interact at all for like an hour. And it's kind of a bummer because
it's a bunch of courtroom
They are so good when they're talking to each other.
I agree with that. The first scene of the two of them together where they're like opposing counsels or whatever, like arguing against each other, just rocks. It's just too, like, they're both like yelling at opposite sides of the camera again, as it's just like pointed straight at them. That is so good. And you want more of that. But then the way that it is kind of like very patiently and very elegantly handled is it gets you right into the story. I do agree with you though, that like we jump into the courtroom stuff, and it's funny because I think this is what the third or fourth courtroom law movie that we have talked about in this series.
Yeah, we did the Firm,
Few Good Men. Yeah, so
the 90s, man,
different time.
I watched the Pelican Brief on the plane.
Let's go, baby.
Costa Rica.
Let's fucking go.
Another Denzel. I guess that's not courtroom, but
it's another
legal thriller.
Yeah. No, but like it's funny, like between all the movies that we have watched so far, somehow the courtroom stuff is, I don't want to say that it's worse in this movie because I actually really love Mary Steenburgen, aka the mom in Step Brothers. I think she is great.
She's awesome.
There's also something that feels like more evil about her and Wheeler than Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. Like it's just like, real. Oh, you're like you're like a monster, but in real life.
And
like,
they're still around.
I work with
They're in our
monsters.
government.
And
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Well, and like really late into the trial, she like puts her head down. She's like, I hate this fucking case. And she's still doing it. It's like fucking like zone of interest type shit. You know what I mean? She's like, I know this is bad.
This is
Like,
just a job I have to do.
but yeah, so I think ultimately that's what sort of bugged me about the movie, because I was so in love with the way they were treating these two guys and their families, and the way they interact, really giving these guys as much as possible to interact with is what you want to do, and each other. I was upset by the fact that we don't get any behind the scenes of doing lawyer stuff. A Few Good Men is all that. Like A Few Good Men. I wrote down at one point, like, how did A Few Good Men give us 45 minutes of Cruise and Demi Moore doing lawyer stuff?
Yeah,
And this
prepping
movie,
for the
this
case.
movie gives us half a scene of Denzel and Tom fucking Hanks actually like being lawyers outside of court.
And it just becomes like
That's-
listening to opera together.
yeah, that's
But I loved that.
No, that scene is
Well, that's
incredible. I want
awesome.
more of that.
It's just like it's between because that comes toward the end.
Yeah.
Between that and the trial starts 47 minutes into the movie. That is too soon. I think. I really think.
It doesn't commit enough to being like a law movie.
Yeah, and
I don't think the script it's not an Aaron Sorkin script where we have a strong enough script to support that we are going to be fully in the law.
Well, and it's just
space.
just watching these guys like move in the world is so fascinating, because Hanks is really playing the hell out of his character. Like, obviously, one thing that you could take issue with is, he's not gay and he's playing a gay guy, obviously, but he's not, I don't know, he's doing it in a very thoughtful, like, measured way, where like I said, he's not playing someone that's super far away from the other guys he plays whenever he plays like a pretty like dignified, smart character, because ultimately this guy above all else is just like really, really bright. He's a good lawyer. Like, he's awesome. He's shooting up the ranks at like the nicest law firm in the fucking city of
Which is
Philadelphia.
ultimately what the jury sides with.
Yeah.
So here's just to kind of take a little step back. Like, I'd never seen this movie before.
Me neither.
I thought I had, because I remember my mom being into this movie, so I just assumed
This is a first watch for you guys?
that she'd put it on at some point.
This is like the most mom movie ever made. Like, this movie, my mom loves it.
Moms love.
I can only assume Beth loves it.
I guarantee
know-
you, if I tell my mom about Philadelphia, she's gonna be like, "That's one of my favorites."
This
That's
is
one of
like
my all-time.
It's like, well, it's a movie that was just on TNT like all the time while we were growing up.
Yeah. So I went into it like thinking that it was going to come back to me. And very quickly, I honestly, from the very beginning, the fucking opening credits montage with the Springsteen song, I was like, damn, this rocks. I've never seen this before. This is great. What a way to start the movie. I absolutely love it.
It's very The Bear,
Sure. Yeah.
but Philly.
Yeah. So it felt fresh, and it felt consequential. It felt important. Like, I could tell that everybody working on this movie knew that they were doing something major.
Yeah, they gave a shit
Yeah.
about what they were like representing with this. There wasn't a big tentpole like AIDS movie. It was a lot of sort of smaller projects that had been made that even broached the subject.
It really goes a long way to humanize this situation and the tragedy of it. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from this movie is like, yeah, Hanks gets his Oscar, Denzel's cooking, he's working that courtroom. Like, we love to see it. But I think more than anything else, it really puts you in that time period really well of like, oh, this must have really hit. And it did. It was a huge hit. It was like 200 million on a 26 budget.
It was
26 million.
it was a smash in a world that was still grappling with crazy homophobia and AIDS phobia.
Exactly. The country needed this movie. And it's silly to say that like a movie can do anything to help people who are suffering and who are dying, but I really do feel like this movie did.
Yeah.
Like it
brought it to the mainstream.
It
in a way that
allowed-
a lot of people in like middle America. As also, this is at a time when the Oscars mattered.
Right, exactly.
They
It's like,
really
you have
mattered what
Hanks,
the honored movies.
you know,
would be.
winning the speech, everything, like the whole campaign. And again, it's Tom Hanks. Like he has arrived. This is America's dad. And to go from Big to A League of Their Own and now to this, it's like this man is one of our great movie stars,
and then,
one of our great actors.
And then Denzel has got his glory Oscar.
Yep. And he just did Malcolm X with Spike.
Yeah, so he's like becoming what he is, but also like beyond any reputation, just on screen, he is the perfect representative of like machismo. Like he represents like dumb maleness in like this incredible way that doesn't like paint him as just like an absolute idiot. It just paints him as like someone who has never second guessed his traditional values.
He's just a member of society, and society thought like this.
Can I tell you one of my favorite like character pieces of Denzel that like made me laugh every time I heard it, but like it worked in two tones because it worked for what you guys are saying. It makes him like associates him as a middle America guy, but also it's just like playing a part for the movie where he just loves more things like, explain that to me like I am 6 years old. Explain that to me like I am 4 years old.
Bro invented Reddit.
Yeah, he made ELI 5. Like just like I'm just gonna keep doing this.
Yeah. And I love that, you know, he's not playing like a level of dignified that like, you know, Malcolm X is or something. He's playing like a fucking like ambulance chaser lawyer.
Right.
Like he's playing like a
Dr. J, call me.
Yeah, he's playing like a hey, Dr. J sighting. Love to see it.
Yeah, Dr. J is great.
You think Dr. J called him?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't.
Yeah, it's you know, it's cool that he's playing sort of like a really good like sleazebag lawyer. Like he's not like a high level a white collar attorney, because otherwise he wouldn't do this case.
Right. After 9 people refuse.
Yeah.
He was the 9th person to.
And then ultimately, you know, when they're in the library, he has that moment, you know, and then they chat and he's like, okay, so you got precedent? And then the scene ends and then you never get any more of that, the whole fucking movie. But
I think it's about trust. I think that the incredible amount of trust put into these actors, into the audience, to come together to have this understanding, like that's part of the slam dunk of this movie, is we're all here to see this very tragic story. Like I remember when we were talking about how we were going to do Philadelphia, it was like, oh boy, here we go. What a fucking joy it is going to be to watch Philadelphia. And people did 200 million at the box office. Like they went to see it, and like you can see why, because yeah, it's kind of morbid subject matter, but there's an understanding, there is a level of trust.
And also that also does explain maybe a little bit why it wants to jump into being such a hard courtroom drama, because that
was hot.
That is, and well, people are just comfortable with that.
Right.
They're more comfortable with that than watching a gay character interact with his family.
Exactly.
And like the weird tension there.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been Demme just being like, how do I make it easier for people to meet me where I'm at with my idea to tell a story about this subject matter?
And it, you know, while watching it, I was disappointed. I get that it may have had utility at the time, but I was like looking at timestamps while watching, because I was like, okay, 47 minutes in, we're on trial. 53 minutes in, it is a national sensation court case, and it's like from then on, like we're just moving. We don't have a lot of time to.
Tom kind of disappears a little bit.
Exactly.
For
He goes
large
away.
chunk of the movie.
Here's another timestamp I wrote. 1 hour 5 minutes. Hanks has been shut out of the movie, and Denzel is asking everyone if they're gay.
That is so. I went.
You're under oath.
Okay, so
you a fairy?
Drew,
hey, come on, you pretty boy.
So Drew, you're on trial. You have AIDS. Your lawyer's going up there and asking everybody, "Are you gay?" Are you pissed off? Are you like calling other lawyers at this point? Like I might have made a mistake.
He already called all the lawyers.
You're like you're in a jury duty situation where you're like, I think that like my lawyer's like bad.
The meme of this is my lawyer, y'all. I'm going to jail. It's a picture of Denzel in Philadelphia.
I just
I don't
think
know
that-
if he's a good lawyer. I don't know. I mean, he is, but also like his
I think
methods.
he is, because there's, again, it's a stroke of genius to be like, let's make sure that the audience knows that this guy is not on board with the gay
And
stuff.
he is rightfully assuming that this jury also isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're not. It's a bunch of old people on that fucking jury.
And the
you know?
approach he has is perfect, where he's like, we all know that we don't like this, but the moment they fired him, they broke the law.
I also, yes, and I think that he comes across it in the right angle, which I'm sure that piece is borrowed from real life. That feels like that's how we actually win a lawsuit against this company, is that we go just from like pure legality stake as opposed to like we're gonna like try them for moral and ethical reasons.
Yeah, we can't virtue signal to this jury.
Yeah, exactly.
This jury doesn't. That term doesn't exist.
But like there's a bunch of moments within the trial space, which I do think that there are like some real, like, if we are going to pick nits in the movie, maybe it's also because we are coming off of prior law movies that might execute those courtroom scenes a little bit better. But I do think that like there are some high moments, like the whole satisfactory versus delightful. You were delighted or you were satisfied. And then also I really love the secretary who then becomes a paralegal, I want to say.
Yeah.
And they talk about the earrings. And they're like, we hear that your
Great
earrings
actress.
are too urban.
Very funny.
And we need something more American. She's like, yeah, they are American. African American.
That's like a real ass
That
lady.
rocks.
You know, like
Yeah.
that's a great little performance. Yeah. Well, that's another thing. That's another reason the movie is so watchable, is because it has like a lot of humor in it. You know what I mean? And that's another thing that I think a lot of filmmakers would fail at.
Yeah, that'd be the first thing if
They'd
we're
be
gonna
like,
cut,
"Oh, AIDS
we're
movie?
gonna-
Whoa! What are
This
jokes
is
being in
serious.
here?"
Yeah.
Yeah. But like there is. Denzel is very funny. Like Hank's, you know, you can't not make Hank's funny. Like he has a character about him. You know what I mean? And so that still comes through even in dour moments, and it's really lovely to watch. Really, yeah, this movie gets way more right than I would ever expect an AIDS movie from '93.
Especially all these years later.
Yeah, like
30 plus years later. I think there's so much about it that just has aged incredibly well. And again, I think it's all, most of it is Demme. It's just his ability to hold back when needed, and again, trust and know that people are coming into this with some understanding or some doubt or some preconceived ideas, and be able to navigate those preconceptions to arrive at the main point of this movie. And again, the whole idea of Denzel being a bigot and a doubter in this whole thing is a lot of what an audience surrogate kind of was back then. And I think to recontextualize it in the 21st century, to put you in that perspective of what it was like at that time. That's part of the genius of this movie.
I agree.
Because it can't be understated where people were at back then. Like, you know, where the culture was at with this shit. It's crazy. Like there was backlash to even this movie. Like people were really upset with it. They were upset by the idea of anyone wanting to.
Yeah. But again, like we said before, both sides of it. It didn't go far enough. It went too far. Like it wasn't.
It's hard. It's really, really fucking hard to thread the needle. Honestly, whenever you're making a movie about a social idea, it's hard to thread the needle.
A lot of people hated on the Antonio Banderas character.
Hey, guess what? He's hot.
Our guy.
Yeah.
Our boy Hanks landed himself a rockin' BF.
Let's be honest.
Fine ass BF.
Hank batting above his weight class. All right, my guy. He really nailed one.
Yeah, he is looking fine.
Looking daddy as hell.
It's crazy.
Coming straight out of some Almodovar movie.
I did want to say, because while we got back on Demme again, I think that we've talked about it a lot. Like one of Demme's biggest strengths is his restraint in a lot of these scenes and his ability to not be flashy. And I think that really, the reason why that works is because then he can flip the on switch and he can fucking do it. And Like I'm
The
thinking
opera
about
scene.
well, not just the opera scene. No. My
Cooks.
yes, we'll talk about that. But before we even get to the opera scene, whenever Andy goes to the stand, and that's when you can really tell. And it's something that because I've seen this movie before, I was trying to pay attention to Hanks in the background of scenes, and you can really see like he is trying to get worse and worse progressively through each scene that's going on. And this
The
is
illness,
like
you mean?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Like you can see the AIDS virus is like slowly killing him throughout this.
It's really
And
shocking in some moments.
the way that whenever Andy takes the stand and he starts to get questioned, and this is like I've complained about it before whenever it's used incorrectly, but my brother, this is how you use Dutch angles. Like this is whenever it's coming from him.
That shit
and
is
it's,
camera just
that shit
sways.
is like 90 degrees at a certain point. It is like to
it's
the
coming
side.
in whenever the cross examination is coming, and you can see the sweat.
Yeah, he looks like
dripping on his.
shit.
It's getting so close to him. He's getting so flushed out, and his eyes are getting so red and blue. And
Yeah,
like,
and it works well because Demme being smart, it coincides with like the darkest part of the movie, which is when she's saying, she's asking him about fucking in the porn theater.
yeah.
Yeah.
And-
So it coalesces into this horrible feeling where you're like, oh, this is so icky. And then
That's-
also like you're feeling literally nauseous just because
Yeah,
you're in
just
his
watching.
It's
Yeah, just in his
upsetting.
POV.
It's upsetting looking at, and that's the thing about Demme, where he's a genius because he's like, I have this in my bag. I could do the athletic filmmaking thing and make it affecting, but I'm just gonna like perfectly deploy this at the right moments to make it as
and
affecting as possible.
Well, and then also jumping really briefly, but like warping reality when he's sitting at the bench with Denzel, and there's the quick shot of the jury all letting out one laugh together, going like,
Yeah.
like that shit is so
good.
scary.
Yeah,
They're all just
it's
staring at
haunting.
That
him.
scared the
Yeah.
shit out of me because the movie doesn't
Yeah.
exist in surrealism beyond that. Like
Right.
it's such a crazy moment to add. He's so good.
And it would be so easy for him to not be able to help himself. I'm talking about Demme, and just insert more and more moments like that because it is such kind of like a simple movie that if you can do stuff like that, you start thinking, well, why don't I do something like that in every scene just to keep it?
Yeah, why
keep
doesn't
the
he,
audience?
Yeah, why
like,
isn't he like seeing ghosts and every? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why doesn't he hallucinate or whatever?
But
like,
the
and
fact
we just
that-
act like that's what AIDS is.
right?
But the fact that it's just that, and then it's right before this, before he goes to stand, the opera scene.
That is
Halloween party into the opera scene.
that
just
is like the moment of the movie
that's
for me.
that's the Oscar moment. That is the moment where like you see that's what they're playing at the ceremony right before.
So
Tom
he's
goes up.
translating the Latin of the song. Is that what he's doing?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
Okay.
translating the
and
language
Into
he's
English.
sobbing.
Yeah, to
And the
Denzel.
camera
While the
is
red and
spinning.
white is flickering around,
like
these
the camera's like
colors.
spinning around him, and then to me what makes it is the reaction of Denzel.
Oh
watching
yeah,
it.
man!
Yeah.
Just
That
giving
is-
like having no clue what he should be doing. He's like, "Well, how?"
To me cinema is being so wrapped up in this story that you are watching these shots of Denzel and you know exactly what's going on in his head. He doesn't have to say a word.
Mhm.
Like he never says like, I understand now why we must be kind to gay people who are ailing from AIDS.
Yeah, and also just
Yeah.
it's all in the eyes.
and also yeah, he's not even that. Him just being like, I like he clearly feels, and he's like, this guy's falling the fuck apart right
Yeah.
now. But he also, he's not going to do anything to help him because he's like, he's still has that removal that everyone else.
He also
has.
just is like, I don't know what to do about this.
Well,
Yeah,
but
he's like,
also
this
going-
yeah. So then the song is, he's like, I gotta head out.
Yeah, he's
what time is it?
Oh, we
fuck.
were gonna rehearse. You got it. You're fine.
and then he walks out and he's about to come back and he doesn't. And
Yeah.
it's those little beats that just like
It's like, man,
they
this
give
guy.
you so much.
I know. And again, that's, it's not just eyeline stuff that demands a lot of trust. And that ultimately, that's also why I think Demme had misses, is because sometimes his material wasn't strong enough to trust the way he
Yeah.
does. Because another thing that demands a lot of an actor and like, you know, implies trust by the filmmaker is just like long close-ups. It doesn't have to be looking at the camera. If he's just in on Denzel's face, just looking at, you know, looking
For a while.
Yeah, like just, you know, just left or right of camera, but he's looking at Hanks and you can see every emotion in the world in his eyes.
It's amazing.
And that is not something that just any actor can
It's
do.
Denzel.
That's hard shit.
Yeah.
And to conjure just the right amount of water in your eyes when he's laying in bed with his wife. Another insane Demme choice that like blew me away is the opera shifting to non-diegetic and following him home when he's laying in bed with his wife. It's just still on.
So good.
It's so cool.
Well, I think, again, to go back to the point of like the Denzel character being this sort of audience surrogate, like that moment is in a lot of ways the point of the movie, because it's Demme trying to get the audience to realize just the bare basics of these people are people. The point of that scene is Denzel finally sees Hanks as just another man. He's not a court case.
Yeah, he's like,
not a statistic.
Well, because also Hanks is very, you know, even though he you know, plays emotions, like he's being very stoic. Like he is focused on the case and like, you know, doing right by his
he's
role.
a lawyer.
Yeah, and so like just him like letting loose like that is, you know, it's Denzel being like, oh yeah, like
He's a person.
This is a dude who is dying and knows it.
It's
like,
the whole point of the movie.
and it also it does it very tactfully, because the choice to make it opera that he is you know, that he is connecting so hard with. If this was like Green Book, like they would have made it like he's super into like
like Elton John.
Well, either that or
It's like, oh man, this guy is really into
Like
Italian.
no. So I was thinking, because it would either be that something like really outwardly gay, or I think what Green Book something like that would actually do is he'd be crazy into like baseball, you know, and Denzel would be like, what the fuck? You're like me?
Wait, you like Mickey Mantle? I like Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like it would
they go to
like,
an Eagles game together.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, he's like crying at, you know, he's like crying at an Eagles game. Yeah, I was seriously thinking that. I was like, that's what a stupid movie would do. And then Denzel would be like, you're a person?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Wait, we have
but really, because also Denzel is
you like fiction books?
You know, I didn't know you were like that.
Yeah. Why are you eating a chicken wing?
You know what?
Man.
You know what, Andy? You're all right.
Man, you know what? Why didn't Tom Hanks eat a whole pizza? He has fold the whole pizza in half and just munch it down. Is that a better movie? Can I call out one thing that I noted immediately upon watching this movie? A Demme choice, Demme callback in his filmography at the Halloween party, which is right before the opera scene. Which, by the way, blast of Halloween party. I would love to go there. The loft that they live in is like fucking dreams. Of
bros. I mean, he's rich as fuck.
Yeah,
at this law
that
firm.
apartment that they are living in is
am.
like my goddamn goals in life to live in an apartment like that in Philly.
Oh,
or
yeah,
some kind of major city.
I'll even do it in Philly if I have to.
If I have to live in Philly, I'll do that
Philly.
one. But at the Halloween party, there's a cover of the song "Heaven" by Talking Heads. Call back to Stop Making
Sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa,
The
whoa.
greatest concert documentary.
Yeah, love the
Called that out and immediately was just like, got that. Love Denzel's lawsuit.
facts.
Lawsuit.
Costume.
Doing
Great
like
costume.
doing like a fucking Jim from The Office type costume.
Kind of, yeah, he was ahead of his time.
He's
really.
like, yeah, it's like I still get to like be a man, and like I don't have to wear no gay shit.
And
But
Tom Hanks is just like, I'm a pirate, I'm a sailor. Don't think about it.
That's great.
it's just good shit, and it is. You're right. It is a lot of trust in these actors, and you know these are the actors that you would want to trust. Another thing that really stuck out watching the movie is because we're left with sort of like Demme style like ambiguity sometimes the score is really informing how we're feeling in a scene.
Yeah.
That happens, I think, the biggest in the lesion scene where he's on trial, like having to show,
yeah.
because what's playing during that is like very triumphant score of like, this is a huge good moment. If negative music were on during that, it would be like, oh no, he is being debased nationally. Like he feels so bad and
He's
embarrassed.
going to lose the case.
Yeah, because it could go either way with that. He could, after that scene, Hanks could go to Denzel and be like, why would you make me take my fucking shirt off? What's wrong with you? But because we get positive score, you know what I mean? We
know it's good.
Yeah, we know. And then, you know, like most of the way through him, like when he has his shirt off, he kind of gives like a smirk to Denzel, like, hey, good one, motherfucker.
Well, choices like that are why this movie made $200 million.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're not trying to make it super like artsy, avant-garde shit. Like you're going for the masses. Not that Demme set out to make a $200 million movie, but he set out to make something that was meant to connect with as many people as possible.
Demme in this, like, Demme's smart. Demme knows this is his follow-up to winning the Best Picture.
Exactly.
He knows that this is going to have a certain audience built in. And so he's like, well, I might as well make my next movie important. I might as well make my next movie something that matters.
One trope that I absolutely love to see, just because it's funny, is the jury is meeting when they're just talking to each other in the shittiest room of all time.
That's how it is.
Have you been to jury duty before?
We need to put more budget into jury rooms.
I was supposed to be a jury duty person.
I'm so bummed that I have not been called for jury duty yet.
They're convening on the set of like a Tennessee Williams play, like in the back. Like it is
just a black.
There's like boxes.
Yeah, it looks like a murder
up.
just happened, and they're like, so this guy's gay, but I like him. What the hell? It's so funny. Also,
there's like one dissenting guy who's like,
I know, and like, well, so one, you know, I brought up during A Few Good Men that movie handles jury my favorite way ever, because it just like, it almost pays no mind to them. It's like, we don't need to do pans across their faces. These aren't good actors. They don't have any lines.
Right.
This movie did another jury trope that I don't love, which is like one recognizable actor in the jury, and you're like, well, that's the one who's going to talk. And then when they're convening, he's the guy who's talking. It's like, well, you know what I mean? And like the whole time when they're talking, he's the one that it cuts to him being like, yeah, I don't like gay people. And you're like, well, I bet you he's going to end up, siding the other way. Stuff like that, where it's like this. So this movie was written by Ron
Nieswaner?
Nieswaner, who is, you know, like he's written a lot of stuff. This is definitely the biggest thing he ever wrote. But he is like a noted gay writer, producer, filmmaker type guy. There are things in there that are less than the quality of the director and actors, I would say.
Yeah, again, Demme, like he just elevates it.
Yeah.
Way above what it otherwise would be.
Yeah. And so if I were to nitpick, it was, you know, it's almost the rare case of a movie where it's like, you know what? Fucking obviously this might make it less commercially successful and accessible, but you know what? Make it 2.5 hours and I bet it'd be better if we got more of their lives.
I do.
And, you know, instead of like having the majority of the back half of the movie is all courtroom.
Hey,
and I felt like it was missing stuff.
Hey, this writer, Ron Nieswaner, wrote the Harry Styles feature film My Policeman.
Wow.
A couple years ago.
Let's go. All right, so we should get to the categories. I did want to say one last thing. The ending fucked me up. I was crying. I was ugly crying at the ending of this movie. And like, I wasn't shocked by what happens. Like, obviously he has AIDS.
Emotionally effective.
He's gonna die. But like, just that scene of the family saying goodbye and the last brother breaking down and crying,
the least tolerant one.
I lost it. Like, and there had been moments where I was starting to like tear up a little bit, like the circle time with the family in the middle there, that kind of made me tear up a little bit.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think that is like such a smart move to have that family, and that's such like a progressive idea to have that, is you aren't going to have like the dad who's just like, I wish my son wasn't gay.
Yeah,
Like
but also
you're
it's-
actually having an accepting family.
Well, and it's also
And-
clearly like some of them like had to take a journey to get there.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's not just people who are like, we all are gay, we love you.
Yeah.
You know, it's his
Yeah.
brothers are like, listen,
you can see it from
you-
his
good
mom.
luck.
His mom first calling it is just like, she's so like, and you don't really know the context. Whenever she first called, she's just like, how are you doing? And he's like, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, and everything. And you can just like
Yeah.
feel the stress on her face.
The guy who
But
played
whenever
the
her mom
dad
has the line of just like, I didn't raise my kids to sit on the back of the bus, is like, damn.
Yeah.
That shit
And then the
rocked.
dad is like,
They-
trust, you've handled this so well.
Where did they get that guy from? It's like they just like found like a nice
guy,
a
just
nice
a
old
dad.
guy. Yeah, like,
just
who is
nice
that?
people.
He doesn't look like an actor.
I
He's
just
like
love
a dad.
I just love that this movie doesn't do the thing that any other movie would do, where you just spend like 20 minutes of him arguing with his family about
Yeah.
like, I love my boyfriend and we're gonna do this
Yeah.
court case whether
Do you see
like
Antonio
it or not.
Banderas? He's hot. You think he's hot. I think he's hot.
Like, no, we've already that was a different movie
Yeah,
where
that
they had
happened
to
10
fight
years
over
ago.
that.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page here. There's so many little things that happen in that sequence that I really loved, where as soon as they greet each other, they're hugging, right? Because that contrast with like Denzel not even wanting to touch him, like repulsed by being near him. The scene where he's fired and they sit him all the way on the other side of the conference room, like that contrasted with his family just like embracing him. That works so well. And then the choice of like, yeah, we are going to be completely supportive of you, even though you're taking the time to ask us if it's okay for you to do this that you know you have to do.
Yeah, but also, you know, there are the little sprinkles of like his like his brother-in-law or brothers will, you know, they're like a little weirded out that he's holding a baby. You know, they're like, hey, yeah, do you want me to maybe take this thing?
yeah.
Like
Let
there's,
me
yeah, like there's still the elements there where you're like, oh, they've been through a whole thing here.
Well, how about I love all those aspects. The way that it's first, I don't know if you guys caught this, because I think this is the first time I had saw this since like actively paying attention in many years. But the cut to Tom Hanks on the phone, like panicking because they're looking for like a complaint or whatever it is. And you see the lesion on his back of the neck, and you just see a random woman staring at it, and then hard cut to a baby. And I was like, what's going on right now? Is this about to turn darker than
It's just to put you in that paranoia of
Yeah,
how
exactly.
people saw,
Yeah.
you know, the ill. Okay, so let's get to the categories. The first category is the Run P category, brought to you by Run P. Thank you, Ron P. Ron P.
Run by Ron P.
Hey, Ron Penis. Thanks for getting this.
Thanks for sponsoring this episode. What is the category to go pee real quick during this movie?
Is it right after opening statements?
It's one of those courtroom scenes has to be.
But it's one of those because it's like right in the halfway mark. I don't want to miss opening statements because I actually think Mary Steenburgen, we haven't talked about her enough. I think that she's really good in this movie as like kind of the face of the opposition.
Yeah, and you know, like you even get like why strategically this firm would choose her to represent them, because she has like a sweet, you know, visage about her where it's like, oh yeah,
She seems just like
she
a
can't
nice
be
lady.
evil. Yeah, but then the way she talks, you're like absolutely terrified by her.
I would say I love my guy, but Bradley Whitford, when he takes the stand, you could just dip out there. That
Man, you're just gonna leave your boy like that?
Well, like the whole point of like what was the complaint that we lost that was the excuse to fire him? Like, it's fine. We don't need that. That doesn't
how
add
about you-
anything.
Yeah, we could replace that with like some BTS of Denzel and Hanks figuring out what their case is there.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I agree. We don't need
That's a
that.
good cut.
We don't need all this shit to be happening on the stand. That's something A Few Good Men absolutely nails. Is like what's really interesting about lawyers is them doing the work behind the scenes. And then like it, you know, you can have your climactic moments on trial, but like
I do think also if you got to go pee during one of them, there's like 4 or 5 different scenes of Denzel being homophobic outside of the courtroom. We can miss like maybe,
But it's important character development.
we can miss,
I
we
love
can miss
the bar
like
scene.
maybe no, we aren't skipping the bar
I
scene.
love the
we
bar.
aren't the bar scene because then also like the Irish guy the Irish bartender be like, hey, at least there's one thing we can agree upon.
Yeah.
I hate them queers, and you're like, Jesus, my guy. I don't think that's where he's coming from.
And then Denzel's like, "Oh, so you're trying to get some tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Want to hook up?
Yeah, no, yeah. I think you're fine.
I like that scene, and I do like the scene with the
wife.
like the football player that's like, I'm assuming a player that plays for like Penn or something like that. Like he plays for a
I think it
Philadelphia-
might just be like some
Does he play
dude.
for Tulane?
I
Is
don't know
the
because
one
that
that's in,
guy is thin. Actually, I shouldn't have said that because that might be a guy with A's at the cast.
Jesus
I shouldn't have said that. But
Listen, he could be like a receiving
hey, I
tight end.
just got out of Eagles practice.
He's like, hey, do I look gay? I like that guy in that scene in the bar and the like Rite Aid or whatever they're at. But like, you know, you can go through one of those where he's like talking to his wife of just like, I really don't like him.
He finds out about his
There's like
aunt.
2 different scenes where he
Auntie's
talks about
queer.
like his where he's talking
Well,
to his wife and kid about.
So I
I
think
don't know if I like him.
the reason that I think that 1 or 2 of those is expendable is because we're not also getting Hanks during that part of the movie.
Yeah.
Then it becomes Denzel and Trial, which is also Denzel. There's no Hanks for like 45 minutes, and it's like, where'd our guy go? Like his life is very interesting. I understand we need to see the journey of this man struggling with intolerance, definitely. But like Hanks is like has AIDS.
It does make
and is on trial.
And
Like
again,
he's going through a really interesting
We
struggle.
should be spending a little more time.
Again, it does make sense whenever you think it'd be funny to think or be interesting to think about what this movie, the 2024 version of this movie would be, because we obviously are spending a lot more time with Hanks.
Hey,
at the
you know
time.
what it's about?
Really just game
COVID.
Ooh.
Hanks has long COVID.
Yeah.
You know, some people
And he
might
has
say
to
that's
deal with the
just as
intolerance.
tragic.
Yeah.
Intolerance. He didn't.
He's
wear
like,
a
I
mask.
can't smell.
Oh boy. All right. The next category is Tom swap. Could the other Tom do this?
No,
movie?
no.
Could our boy
No.
Tom Cruise?
You know what he could do is play the Denzel character.
Ooh,
I actually think, I
that's-
was gonna say that whenever we got to
Oh
recast
my
the couch.
god, that would rip
And I-
That
so
is the
hard.
face of a bigot.
Here's the thing.
Look at
Here's
him.
the thing.
I hate gay people.
Here's the thing. I think that Tom Cruise would be great in the Denzel role. Like, I think that would be a
Could you
phenomenal
imagine-
casting choice.
Why aren't our Toms together?
They never smooch once in the series, and why not? We could have had it.
now that
could've
Cruise is back to making like real movies.
Yeah, who
maybe.
knows? He's in Inarritu movie.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Selfishly, I want Cruz in the Banderas role. And I want him to do the accent.
Mi amigo. Yeah, Cruise could not do this role.
No.
Like, no,
No
not
way.
even close. It
No
would
way.
be horrible.
No, and it's funny because it's not as though this is like a super like soft and vulnerable role. It's just like when it needs to be vulnerable, it's like not this.
So
guy.
No.
I'm
It would be disastrous.
I'm jumping ahead to the recasting couch here, but have you guys looked at the casting?
Yeah, Robin was supposed
So-
to be in there.
No. So for the Andrew Beckett role, the original person who was offered, do you know who it was?
DDL.
Daniel Day-Lewis. And here's the thing.
That would have rocked.
He also would have won an Oscar. Like either way, like
contracted AIDS.
that would have rocked.
I abandoned my boyfriend at a porno theater.
The more interesting thing though is the casting for the Joe role, the
Yeah.
Denzel role.
Robin and Bill Murray.
Robin and Bill Murray.
I don't know it. Why are you guys assuming that Daniel Day could play this role? He's not
He could
likable.
play any
no,
role
I think
ever.
Daniel
He's
Day
not
could
like,
absolutely.
Has he ever been likable?
Lincoln.
Is he likable in Lincoln?
Last of the Mohicans.
He's not like
Phantom Thread.
Phantom see
Thread,
Tom
you
Hanks-
don't see him just want to like.
You
I want to
see Hanks
snuggle that.
and
I want
you're
to
like, you see Hanks, you're like,
boy.
I like this guy, and that has to be
Yeah.
a part of the character.
No, that's a good
because
point.
We're dealing with intolerant America.
I think 1993 DDL is very different. From,
you
like
you
here's the
see
thing.
it, you see in his eyes, and you're like, yeah,
You're
I
thinking-
understand this
You're
guy.
thinking There Will Be Blood and later DDL. I think a young DDL could do it because young DDL was kind of hot.
Age of Innocence.
Yeah.
I know, but was he ever not intense?
I think Age of Innocence era DDL. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
In the
absolutely.
in the name
he
of
was
the
a little bit
father.
of a hunk. He was a heartthrob.
Was he ever funny in like an approachable way? Ever? I think you guys are.
What about when he
assuming too
abandoned
much.
his child?
That
When he
was funny.
abandoned his boy. I think it's really. What about Bill Murray in the Denzel role?
No.
That's wild that he got
Absolutely
offered
not.
this.
Yeah, like hate gay people or whatever.
Or Robin in the Denzel role. I'm sorry.
no,
I don't think Robin could do this.
Yeah, well, this is
I don't think Robin could have done the Denzel.
ultimately this movie works. Because
Robin as a bigot.
These are the two guys.
Yeah.
Like they whether or not it was like by choice or whatever, they ended up on the two guys who had to do this.
Can I know we're going all out of order here too, but do you want to know who was originally offered the role of Miguel, the Antonio Banderas character, before Antonio Banderas took it?
Hank Azaria.
Oh God.
No, but John Leguizamo was offered the role, but turned it down to play Luigi in the Super Mario Brothers movie.
That rocks. Let's go. What
Was it? What was a more important movie culturally?
Tough.
Really. So
Hey, Mushroom Kingdom.
Here we come.
Here we come. I've got AIDS.
From the mushrooms. Yeah, no, it had to be Hanks. I think he gets the Oscar. Like this is the
Yeah.
reason why it works. And Denzel's incredible. Like he's also why the movie works.
Denzel
but
is just so like
Denzel's incredible.
I couldn't
Yeah.
even begin to like do any sort of modern day casting for this because like there's no one like these guys. Like these guys are different. Denzel was just a different guy, man. Like we will never have another Denzel.
Yeah, it's
Peak Denzel is unlike anything. It's like I'm trying to think of an athlete that like when they were at their maybe they're not the GOAT because of like full resume, but like at their peak, it's like Gronk.
Yeah.
But, like he had a few years there where it was like this isn't real. Like there's like
There's
five
never going
guys
to be a
trying to
peak
tackle
of
this
this.
guy and he's just not
Yeah.
going down. That's not human.
Yeah.
Denzel is inhumanly good at acting.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's right, and it's kind of almost shameful that we haven't done Denzel on a series yet. But I think with
One day.
with the way that this series originally started was we were looking for highs and lows in a career, and Denzel doesn't really have lows for like the heyday of Denzel is just kind of all highs.
Mhm.
Like there is no like
The
bad
Equalizer.
Denzel. The Equalizer's fun.
Okay. All right.
We'll talk about it in the Denzel series.
Should we just become a
Coming 2028 to We Bought a Mic.
The Equalizer 2.
should we I don't know. That's the thing because I don't want to do someone who's just in good stuff. Should we just become a podcast about actors in bad stuff and do like Gerard Butler?
That could be
I want
fun.
to be around
Because
anymore.
he's been doing his like he's been doing bullshit for like nice. Hey, you knew the number.
Look at that.
That was so lucky. There's like a 50-50
Ernie, we were
chance.
shit talking to you last night. We were just like, Ernie's just really just up there, just hoping that's why he presses a button up there.
It's
Really?
because I looked at them before we started recording and like
Nice.
the recall is there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, did we mention? So last night, Hunter and I went and saw the cast of Napoleon Dynamite live in Orlando. They're touring, doing this.
Cool
They
brag.
screened the movie, and then John Heater and John Grice and Efren Ramirez all came out.
So at the end, Zian.
The way that it started, the first 10 minutes of them coming out reminded me so much of the podcast.
Nice.
Because they all came out. They did like
First
a weird
of all,
little
John
musical,
Grice comes out just playing an acoustic
playing
electric.
blues guitar,
Yeah.
and then Efren plays a harmonica, and it's like it's good, but it just feels really unstructured. And once they're all on the mic, they're all like talking over each other like we do, and like everyone's like they may be saying funny things, but like I don't know what it is.
It's funny just to them and not to the rest
Yeah,
of the
they're doing
audience.
inside jokes that don't work for anyone else. And then John Heater comes out and he's like hitting like soundboard stuff, but he's like fucking up.
John Heater rides a BMX bike on stage and then starts grabbing a synth and joins in on their jam that he's doing. And it's not the best, but it was fun. It felt like the most human that I've ever seen celebrities in my life.
20 years, man.
Yeah, 20 years.
I know. I
Yeah.
really wanted to get a question.
I
during the
haven't seen
Q&A.
it in like
so bad.
probably 20 years.
Ernie, it's
you got to
so
rewatch
good.
it. It bangs.
It's so good.
I was talking about like after we left the showing last night, I was just like could not shut the fuck up to Gaia about like I think that's the first time that I had ever seen a post-credit scene in my life was Napoleon Dynamite on the DVD, because I had watched the movie so many times, and one time I just let it play through the credits, and I was like, "There's more fucking movie!" Like I didn't know that was a thing that you could do. Same thing with deleted scenes of like watching the deleted scenes, learning the dance and all this kind of shit.
Another thing I wanted to ask
features.
them about actually is because I didn't even see it on special features, but when I was a kid, I had the script book of the movie, and it had like the full movie. It had all the deleted scenes in there, and I was like,
"Oh, there's a
what
short
do you mean?"
film
Like,
too.
I saw the movie.
Short film on there.
They talk about the short film because it's just John Here's just a fucking Mormon boy who just like made it with what's the name of
Jared
that girl?
Hess, who was like literally like 22 making this shit. It's nuts. Like it's a 1 in a billion movie, and also I don't know. It captured all these dudes at the right time. It's a lot of childhood first because it was the first movie I'd seen that really portrayed like uncomfortable people.
And
like
spectrum-y.
Yeah, like I didn't know that like other people felt like uncomfortable all the time and like everything was too quiet. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And it's also like very structureless. As for a kids movie, like when you think of the plot of it, you probably think of Vote for Pedro, and that starts more than halfway.
That's
like,
literally after the dance, which is
it's like you feel like you're kind of just watching like a TV show almost.
Do you guys know that Jared Hess has a new movie coming out in production right now?
He stays making stuff.
The Minecraft movie.
Wait, what? He's the guy making that?
He took it from Rob McElhenney. Because it was supposed to be Mac for like 5 years.
I think he's still involved.
That's
oh wait, no, you're right. He's not. He's no longer involved.
Yeah.
Wow, Jared Hess.
That's a bummer.
Out here.
Generally, I mean, I get it because it's hard to make that type of movie in Hollywood. Like the magic of the movie is that it has no plot or structure, and it gets to be so like silent and weird and like
kind of vibey
and airy and open in Idaho. And like as you know, as time passed, he had to just make movies, and like you're given scripts that like have a big plot, and it's you don't get the chance to do little things.
Like Nacho Libre was like so anticipated, and that just did not.
I know.
There was so much hype.
I went for my birthday to that with some friends, and I liked it, but I was like, this is not Napoleon, man. Napoleon Dynamite was built different.
Hey, he also directed a couple episodes of Last Man on Earth.
Yeah, he did.
Nice.
It's just for that movie to be such a cultural moment like it was is like once in a lifetime.
Are you guys not a Gentleman Broncos guys?
Or the campaign? Remember the campaign?
I remember the campaign.
All right, let's get back to
AIDS.
Philadelphia.
Back to
Flip Philadelphia.
What would you guys call this movie? I couldn't think of anything.
I like Philadelphia.
I don't.
What does Philadelphia have to do with anything in
It's
this?
the city of brotherly love.
That's homophobic.
That feels bad whenever you're saying that. That's not what that was intended for.
Okay, what about
what about Andy's AIDS?
Did you just come up with that? That's fucking incredible. That's wow.
Denzel chomps a big sandwich. That was a big old chomp.
Yeah, he does. He took
I was like, oh, he's still going.
He takes a fat bite. He's awesome. Denzel's so awesome.
Okay,
you know what's the character's name?
Joe
Hanks.
Andy.
Andy has AIDS.
What's his last name?
Beckett.
Andy.
Just call it Beckett.
Andy Beckett's critical case, and the case is a case of AIDS.
And that's all like one title, right?
All right, just call the movie AIDS then.
Yeah.
Jeez.
AIDS. How does this this movie stack up in the pantheon of AIDS content? Like,
well, there's probably not that much.
Rent.
Content. The episode
Rent is definitely on the Mount Rushmore
with Magic Johnson.
Angels in America.
Okay. Yeah, Angels in America has to be up there.
Dallas Buyers Club.
I got to shout out the documentary.
I think Dallas Buyers Club is going to have to sit on the side just because of Jared Leto's performance in that.
I mean, I don't know. Part of the reason why this movie's so special is because it does the thing that so many movies can't do, where it tells a difficult story in a way that people can connect to it without feeling terrible. Like it's so sad, but it's also like really heartwarming. and I think that the Denzel and the Hanks piece is so big because like if you were to make this movie today, you wouldn't be able to cast you'd have to cast an actual homosexual actor, like an actual gay actor. And in this day and age, to ask, I don't know, Andrew Scott to play this character, like that feels like that doesn't feel right. Andrew Scott could do so much more than play this character.
Right.
He's so talented.
It almost feels
Jonathan Groff?
demeaning to make. Yeah.
I mean, Groff, I think Groff would kill it. Like, he would be great.
I think Andrew Scott would kill it.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
that's not like the point.
I mean, Tom Hanks knocked it out of the park. I just think that it was just this very narrow margin that this movie was able to go through, where it was like, we got these incredible actors doing this very important story in a way that doesn't feel forced and also lands with the weight that it needs to. It's not easy.
The documentary I wanted to shout out was Common Threads: Stories from the Quilt.
Okay.
From '89. It just like sort of goes deep into like a few different stories of, you know, people with AIDS. Crazy. AIDS is crazy. It just killed like so many people, and you know, and it got like brushed under the rug for like a whole decade.
Yeah.
Until the movie Philadelphia saved it.
I did one thing. We haven't actually mentioned his name yet, but I wanted to shout out Jason Robards, who plays Wheeler, the like disgusting lawyer head at the firm that's going on. Jason Robards,
Shouts out to his dentures.
fucking incredible actor.
Terrific denture actor.
Everything from like All the President's Men. He's in Magnolia, which we have previously talked about outside of this series, Once Upon a Time in the West. Like, legendary actor, and I think he's incredible in this movie as like kind of this disgusting bigot of a person.
All right, next category is favorite scene. What are you guys' favorite scene in the movie? As much as I love the opera scene, that is kind of like my scene of the movie. I really love the ending. Like the ending really knocked me out. That the last moments at the hospital, and then just the entire like kind of wake funeral thing that goes into the home videos, and then the movie ends. Like, I just felt like that was a really incredible way to end the movie, and it sat really well with me, and it left me with this feeling of like, Andy, he didn't have to do this. He was gonna die. He could have just died. But he fought, like he tried. So it just made me think, like, you know, you end with this like home footage of him as a kid. And I was just thinking, like, man, life is so short and it's so fragile. And it just makes you think, like, what are you gonna do with the time that you have? And this guy, his time was very, very limited, and he fought. He tried. Yeah. He could have just wasted away. Like, he easily could have.
Yeah, and he wins the $5 million, and he knows that he's not going to see a dollar of that. He knows that's just going to then go on to like other AIDS foundations and fund other things.
Favorite scene?
Mine's Andy on the stand. Okay. That is my favorite scene of the movie. That's like where you get the combination of the acting with Demme, who's been very restrained throughout this entire movie, actually being able to unveil it, and it becomes kind of like a horror film for like 45 seconds there. Like, it gets like really kind of heart pumping while you're watching the movie.
Mine is them in the library.
Yeah, that's earlier really on. That's another great one.
It's just crazy good, and it's setting up what I was, you know, hoping the movie would become, which is them working together a lot.
I did also want to shout out in the Andy, when Andy's on the stand, when Denzel makes him take off his shirt and show off his lesions. Because at first they come up there and they're like, see the one lesion on your face. And they're like, that's not covered up. And Denzel's like, take off your shirt. Let's see him. And you see all of them.
Great
all
makeup
over his body.
It's the reflection of it too. In the mirror. That's what you see. Most iconic scene or most iconic moment to me is probably the opera. I mean, like you said, that's like kind of the Oscar moment.
Yeah.
Hanks wins, you know, that's kind of the real.
I don't know. I really like it when like things are going pretty standardly, and then Denzel out of absolutely nowhere is like, "You gay?" to the guy on the stand.
You gay?
It's so fun. And everyone's like, "Doi? Well, what's up? What's going on?"
It was just like middle school.
The judge is like, "Watch yourself, counselor."
Tread lightly.
Judge, are you gay?
I don't know if we need this one for this movie, but next category is fellas WYD. What would you
Fellas,
do?
you diagnosed with AIDS.
WYD.
I'm getting better in like a week. No meds. I'm just built different.
So I'm going
I
to start
wouldn't-
playing professional basketball because I've heard that helps.
I would do a better job at applying that makeup and hiding the lesions. I would stay at that job.
No one talks about this.
I would just die mysteriously one day and they'd be like, what happened to that guy?
Here's the thing.
There was
like,
nothing wrong with him.
We weren't at a spot
That's
where
my real hair.
we weren't at a spot where it was socially accepted for men to just go ahead and get concealer for themselves. And like, I think that in the modern day and age, if we could just go get our tone matched and get good concealer, Hanks would still be working there this day.
Right.
I don't know if there's a WID entry into this story.
Next category is so out of 5 we're scoring for Cruise. Here we have a whole list of things, but I think for Hanks it's just the Riz, just the out of 5 the classic Hanks charisma.
He has a lot because especially in the beginning of the movie, he has to, because the shittiest, most intolerant fuck in America has to see him and be like, man, I like that guy.
Yeah.
And you do.
But not the shittiest, most intolerant fuck, because 9 lawyers say no to him first,
Exactly.
including the ones that he works for. I can't go above a 3 here. I think wherever we're taking him in the body of work of the entire film,
Especially given what we've seen, like given, Big
Should we-
and
should we evolve the context of the Hanksiness in the same way we did with Cruise?
well, what other things do you want to evaluate?
Because I
other
think
than
that
the
there is like,
charisma?
it's not just a charisma; it's a lovability.
Yeah.
Like I think that it's like that almost, it's the thing that we talked about with Robin, where there's like a paternalness,
yeah.
but not quite paternal. It's almost like an uncle figure,
Yeah.
like my uncle with AIDS kind of
Yeah,
figure.
Exactly.
That's what you should have called it.
And if we're gonna call
My
it,
uncle with
here's the thing:
There's no nephew.
if we're rating
in the whole-
this, if
No,
we're rating
there
this
are-
on
there are some
uncle,
nephews.
if we're rating this on uncle with AIDS scale, I think I have to give this a 5.
New category.
I think the step that he takes, as a career move to make this movie is to move away from a lot of the lovability, but also kind of use it to help sell this idea of this character.
Because we're not just rating Riz. We're rating Hanksiness.
Yeah.
And he's not like crazy Hanksy and like the loud crazy, but and like the like
Right.
even though there are certain scenes where he's being loud and he does sound just like Woody, and you're like, oh, he's still very Hanks. I would give it 4 because I think
I think me too. Yeah.
I think that he is undeniable, and like they even when he is very intentionally like skinny and put in tons of makeup and like dying, he still has to shine through. Like the inherent character of the man has to just shine through that.
Agree.
Yeah.
Last category, re-caging and re-Robin couch. Where are Nick Cage and Robin Williams in this film?
So Nick Cage in the Tom Hanks role.
Oh God. Oh God.
Robin, we can't say the Denzel role, which isn't even where I would put Robin to begin with.
I know, that's such a weird.
It's because it's 1993. It's coming off of fucking the Sleepwalking Awakenings, and they're like, Robin Williams, he can really do no wrong.
There's not a lot of opportunities. You're in the courtroom, maybe I don't know. Could Robin just be like Patch Adams at the hospital?
Could Nick
to be like, hey, you don't need medicine. You need laughter. Boinka, boinka,
So here's
boinka,
the
boinka.
thing. It's not going to be good.
That's what's going to cure your AIDS.
It's not going to be good, but can I see Nick Cage in the Antonio Banderas role?
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
Could
of
we
course.
have Cage in there and just have him be like, Andy's lover?
I love you.
Yeah.
Don't die on me.
Just making up lines. Like the shittiest line.
Or
Robin, what if Robin was, I mean, it's a small role, but the lawyer who eventually turns nice, who admits that, like, I did know that he had AIDS, and I helped get him fired.
That'd be great, but it can't be Robin, because then we'd spend the whole movie being like, he must have a moment.
Why is Robin
Yeah, he's
Williams
gonna have
in
a
this
moment
movie?
later on.
Right.
Robin could, I think they both would be great as just like random gay guys like at the party.
Yeah.
They should both be in the barbershop quartet.
Or like let's have the Halloween party just be a bunch of that guys that you just see for like one scene. It's like, oh, that's Nick Cage. Oh, that's Robin Williams.
I
Whoa.
think if we're just generally recasting, I think someone who I would love to see doing the Denzel role would be like 80s, like pre-super insane Pacino. Because he used to have a very similar quality to Denzel, like with the electricity and the look in the eyes and the intensity. I think that he could absolutely do that. Although, it's a fine line between like when he got too crazy to do that.
And then he got really into cocaine, and a whole decade passed by.
Modern
him.
God, here we go.
Him in like the Steenburgen role, accusing him of being in the porno theater, and he's like, he's got a great ass.
I think people are perverts.
And you've got your dick all the way up it. All the way up it.
I think people are perverts.
Are they just like one button, those two things?
No.
I think people are perverts and you've got your head all the way up it.
I just kept hitting both at the same time.
I think people are perverts.
She got a great ass.
Okay.
And you got your head all the way up.
There it is.
I don't even want to be around there.
Okay. Are we done? Philadelphia.
I think
Did
we're
it.
done. Yeah.
Great movie. I don't know if it'll be like top tier of the series, but I really enjoy watching it.
I think it's
much better than I thought it would.
I know.
Yes, I think that
I was
it is-
really like, oh god, this is gonna be a bummer, and it's just a good movie.
I think that once again, we've talked about it a bunch, but like, I think that if I'm going to take like one big like winner of like, who won the movie, I think that I would say Demme is the one that elevated this movie the most, even outside of two incredible roles at its center. I think Demme makes this, in the wrong hands, this is a Hallmark movie. Like, this is like a bad movie that could like, at worst, like set back what we think about AIDS in society and in Hollywood in the 1990s, when already that was a sensitive stomach. And even in like pretty good hands could just be like bad, schlocky Oscar bait Green Book shit.
It's tough because I really like Big, but I think this might be the best Hanks so far. Because I think this is better than A League of Their Own and Joe versus the Volcano. Definitely.
What? It's better than Joe versus the Volcano?
Well, are you talking about as a movie, or are you talking about the Hanks in it?
Both.
So yes to Joe versus the Volcano. I don't know about Big.
They're kind of.
I think I would still put Big slightly.
They're pretty even for me right now. But I think Big is just way more rewatchable, and like
Big is also like, that is, if I cannot, like, whenever you're recasting Big, that is one of the hardest recastings to do, because it's such a one of a kind performance.
All right. Well, that's Philadelphia, and that's the show. Thank you all for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe, like, and comment. Let us know down below in the comment section what you thought of Philadelphia. Check out webottomike.net. Get every episode in your inbox. Donate. Thank you, all the donors, for supporting the show. If you like what we do, give us $5 a month on the Patreon. Patreon.com/webottomike. Next week, it's Sleepless in Seattle.
Wow.
It's another Hanks.
That's a big one.
And stick around for a little surprise bonus episode we have coming at you. Keep it surprise. Cooking it up. And beyond that, little Dune Part 2. Little spoilery deep dive into the sands of Arrakis. And then when we get back to our boy Cruz here, it's Interview with the Vampire. So that's what you got to look forward to. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.